We're doing is Lenten fasting. This is another free thing. I mentioned in last week's weekly win, not everything that I learned and did to change my life came from this self-mastery belief inventory process. A lot of things didn't actually. I share those on trips and in power intensive journeys that we hope to do in Mexico this coming year if conditions avail themselves with the COVID. But one of the processes I did was fasting. And fasting had different qualities. One of it was about eating, and we did this through Lent, through a number of years with my mentor, Miguel. And it was a really transformative process, not just because of what, I changed in my diet and I ate really clean food, no sugar and very little dairy and no meat, a lot of fruits and vegetables and rice. I lost like this extra weight I had. So that wasn't part of the intention. But what happened is it awoke myself to how much I was in these automatic patterns about food and things that I felt I had to eat and what terrible things I feared. The way my mind was just creating because it was in a habit and didn't know something new. So just doing something new kind of says, well, that was fine. That actually turned out really good and I've got more energy. And it strengthened my will. And it really taught me to not believe my thoughts. So number of things in there came out of that process, and I'm going to be exploring that. I will have another video about what that's about this weekend. And we'll start on Ash Wednesday, which is February 17th. If my calculation is correct. Yeah, February 17th. And go through till Easter Sunday. So that's a process you can join in for free or find out more about as I share and maybe hold some live chats about it. So Ava's running her Being Me course, and she wanted to let everybody know in the Being Me course, you can tailor this, and this is for everybody, what is fasting and how you want to change your habit process that works for you. I know you ladies in there are all about enjoying your life and having a good time. And really see what makes your life exciting and fun. And you may want to not give up your chocolate and your coffee. But maybe you want to give up being guilty about it. Maybe you want to give up shame about it. Maybe you want to give up saying you're sorry and feeling small and meek about what you're doing and the changes you're making. So you can fast and break that habit as well. So you can tailor this process for whatever habit you want to change. So Being Me, you can make it work for you too. So another win, I launched the group coaching course, and where I'm talking live with a number of people. So we get to talk about a whole big range of topics, not just what's in the self-mastery course, but this past week we got into how our family history might affect our behavior, our personality, our nervous system. And what happened in our ancestors, or to our mom, to our grandparents, and the culture they came from affects our energetic makeup and our behavior and our personality, and brought into an awareness exercise of how you can shift that. So that gets to be fun. I get to go outside the normal self-mastery course stuff when people ask those questions. And I'm going to be launching, I'm working on it now. This is a new thing I'm creating. I'm excited. This is like me having a win just by being excited and sharing. One of my wins is being excited about the new upgrade to the self-mastery course I'm doing. Finally, it's been 15 years. I've learned a lot. I've changed a lot. I got a chance now with things slowing down. I had big plans to speed everything up, but then holidays, and then I got sick and I didn't feel like doing anything. And so I just put all my in-hurry plans like, okay, let's laugh at our planning. That's not going to happen. Slowed everything down. Let me work on this course. And so I've been working on an upgrade to the self-mastery course. I'm making new audios. I'm bringing in a lot of the videos that were in the Academy course. So it's just going to be more focused with a lot of my evolution and how I've learned and improved over the last 15 years since I first recorded some of those lessons. So those are things that are new, that are happening or happening shortly. And Ava and I are already talking about other courses we're going to do as well. And I'll share more about those later. But that's enough new stuff. Creating something new is what happens as you evolve your thinking, as you evolve your belief system, as you evolve your sense of belief about who you are. You start expressing differently. So let's talk about how this might show up as a win for you. These are wins at my level. I'm creating new courses. I'm taking what I taught 15 years ago and say, I think this is better, and sharing it. What's a level of thinking that we typically show or have when we show up into this community or this process, my course? We get usually a lot of negative thoughts, painful emotions, and the type of thinking you're doing is maybe it's fearful thoughts. What are they thinking about me? Type thoughts. And so you're thinking about what somebody else is thinking. And that's a level of awareness that then you start to think about, well, what am I thinking about that I think that they're thinking? So your attention is on your own thinking about made up stuff about what they're thinking. And then as you get a little more aware, your awareness is on, how do I feel about that part of my mind doing that thinking? What's my emotion in that thinking mode? What part of my mind, and I call these characters, are doing that thinking that's fearful, that's judgmental? I'm not doing that thinking. My mind is doing that thinking. And so now you have a sense of, what am I as an identity separate from my mind? And so now we've kind of moved up the food chain of awareness. And we're aware of ourselves separate from thinking. So that's a win. To be confused about your identity and like, well, I'm not sure who I am, is a win. Because now you're not your mind and you're not these character voices. And although it might be uncomfortable, it's a win. So then you might look at where some of these beliefs came from. What's my history? What's my past? Because as one of my clients elegantly wrote to me a couple years ago, she realized everything that she's making in her mind as a decision today is a culmination of thousands of decisions that preceded it, that determined who she is and how she thinks about things and the paradigm she holds. And so she looked at her history and said, here's a tangent that I went on that brought me to here in my life, that built on it this way, built on it this way, built on it this way, that created this experience, and created this experience, created this emotion, created this way of deciding things automatically. And as she unraveled those belief system layers of previous decisions and previous versions of herself. So thinking about yourself in the past, in a detached, that's not me, but how did that change the direction, and how do I get freedom from that to be different, is up-leveling your thinking. So we're taking our attention going inward to where's the origin of our thinking, origin of our decision-making, origin of our emotions and behaviors, as opposed to what are other people thinking? What do they think? What's their opinion? What are they saying? This is self-awareness that leads to change. So this is all higher level of awareness. And then you get into the game of, as you dismantle these layers, you're back to this origin of like, well, I get to choose now. I get to choose what I want to create, what do I want to express, how I'm going to think about things. You know, I had a good experience. I just got this great email back from a client, and we had kind of gotten into her judged core beliefs that things needed to be really harsh and there needs to be serious punishment and we have to follow the rules or else bad things will happen. Because that's what her childhood was. Follow the rules or punishment will happen. And so like her belief system was living in the memory of her being 5 and 10 years old. And that's when that belief got formed and it hadn't got updated. And so we got in there and she got to like really make this judgmental voice where it's like, oh, I'm not 5 years old. I'm grown up. And those things aren't going to happen. Oh, okay. I guess we can let that fear of things going because we grew up and we're fine. And so she got to have a different relationship with herself, that things were okay. And then she took that attitude of understanding, like, it's her judge that was afraid and feeling like it was 5 years old and bad things were going to happen, that was enforcing the rules. And she got to go have then a chat with her daughter about something that in the past the judge would have said, well, we need to be really harsh and we need to make sure she follows the rules. This time she got to go, well, Judge, let's not go with that. Let's go have a conversation with my daughter about why she did what she did and how she's feeling about it, and what influenced her to make that decision. And so she got to be more present instead of controlling, punishing. She's creating a different relationship with her daughter because she created a different relationship with herself and her inner critic. And so then it's like, well, what else is possible in my relationships? How you want to create them. That's a win for her. That's a win for me because I was like, yeah. It's a win for me to share with you that that's possible and just plant the seed. Like, you can change that inner critic in your head. Then you get into this other spiritual component of what is a win, identity. If I'm this source and I can create things differently, and a whole different sense of myself is possible, what am I? That can keep changing, keep evolving. If I'm not a fixed person, and that's like, and you start moving into this awareness that I'm formless, I can change who I am. And that's another level of awareness. To let go of the rigidness of the mind of identity into, I'm this formless force that can create expressions. Look at me, I'm creating a video this week instead of typing. That's not a big one. But what could you do differently and create differently in a conversation, in the different kinds of thoughts you think? And then you have an awareness at a higher level. Not just what am I that can create differently, that can think differently, that can feel emotions differently. What is everybody else? And what are we all doing here? And this is where I like to spend some time, in this utter awe of us all as forces of artistic creation. And curiosity of all of the other things that are alive, the creating, the trees are growing and creating. Everything's alive, the animals are creating. And that everything is alive and creating. And spend part of my creation meditation is to go look at the world with that sense of awe. And it's a really nice way to quiet my mind and just be in this flowing space of emotions. So that's one of the ways I create, since I'm not worried about what people think of me. I'm like, well, I'm still creating. I put my attention on what and how I want to create it and with the emotions I want to. So these are kind of different levels of what we think about, how we think about them, and how we feel changes as you progress. So any of those shifts in your thinking move you to a different level of awareness. And in the beginning, the hard work is slow. You show up with pain, you show up with a lot of negative thoughts, and just getting that gap is a win. But later, as we get into more advanced practices, cultivating pleasure and cultivating love and compassion for others and the awe of creation and what is the spirit of life that's moving through all things. Some people call it God. Pondering that, pondering the nature of God. That's like, and God, not at all in the way the stories I learned growing up, but in the way of this amazing consciousness, unifying and connecting all things. We'll get into that. What is that search for God? And I had to let go of all my old definitions I learned growing up in Catholic school. But that's nice stuff to ponder. And not just ponder, not to think about, but to feel the expansiveness of. That's a different way to think, and that's a win. So I'm inviting you to let you know where you are in the map, different levels of awareness, what you think about, how you feel about it, or even moving out of thinking into a different sense of identity a different sense of feeling, a different sense of just being in awareness and presence as opposed to even thinking. Because you've got this big gap in your mind. You're like, oh, I'm over here being present. And that's different than thinking. So what are your wins in this category or in any category of things that you're changing in your life? Of what are you doing? How are you doing it? And share. Yeah, not just what are you doing, but how are you doing it? To move yourself in those steps on your pathway to happiness. So I will post links down below for how to get quickly to Anna's group and the trauma podcast and the other things going on. And I'll be back with you shortly with a notice about what we're doing for Lent for the fasting. And you can put in your program how you want to do that fasting in a way that works for you and change whatever habit is on you that has been nagging you for a while. So those are the wins and a way to look at wins over the long-term cycle of your journey to greater awareness. Thank you. Have fun. Love you.